Right. Hello. It's lesson number 10. It's mid to late November, really. So this is the last one now before the last class before Christmas. It's lesson number 10. We've been doing a lot of stuff on reflections and that, as you know. And recently we've been looking at animals and reflections together. So a lot of animals drinking and things like that. So I'll show you how far I've got with my bird that I was doing, my black stilted, I can't remember now. I'll show you in a minute. And I've started to do more of a close-up tonight of an owl. Again, inspired by Rachel Walker. Who does the pen and the watercolor together, which is something I really like doing. So and I'm putting more of the ideas and the patterns into the work, so taking some inspiration from her stuff as well. So we'll have a quick look at some of the things I've been doing, and we'll continue with that work tonight and try and finish everything off. Thank you everyone for posting your work. We were just talking about how many really lovely pieces of work are coming up on the Facebook group. So thank you very much for that. And the next class will start on the 15th of January at the same time on Thursday, 7 till 9. So I hope you can come along and join us for that as well. All right, and I think we're going to do portraits next as well, so that should be a lot of fun. All right, so let's go over and have a look on the wall. So you'll remember this from last week. Let me just check what the name of it is actually, because the type of bird, a black-winged stilt. A lot of them have really bright pink sort of legs, but this one doesn't really. That's okay though. Maybe it's a seasonal thing. I'm not sure. But the reflection on here was the interesting bit. But when we look at Rachel Walker's work, you can see how Rachel Walker has added lots and lots of ideas. Some bits aren't outlined. Some bits are clearly outlined, but with some ideas that she's had of her own. Very, very stylized, but also a really beautiful piece of work that. So that's what I've been working on before. And I'll show you the piece that I did again to remind you of where I got to. And of course you'll remember that I was doing before that, I was working on this really nice fox. But now I have taken some inspiration from some of these ones, which are close-up owls. Well, we've got an owl there and we've got a kingfisher over the other side here. So let's just zoom into that and see how Rachel Walker tackled these fantastic details on here. So of course you wouldn't see a lot of these details on an owl in the same way, but you can see these nice around the outside of the eye. We've got all these lovely different shapes. And on the top of the head, there's some extra details have been added once more. So I'm going to take a bit of inspiration from that and use watercolor with it as well. I've started to draw that out already, so I'll show you that in a second. And this one, which is even more so creative and inventive, really fantastic images to be inspired by. We've got these little circles in there, and one thing about both of these, of course, is that the eyes are really painted in very carefully as well. And we've got these wonderful highlights, which is something I always look for because it brings the paintings to life as well. All right, so I'll show you the photo that I'm working from at the moment, and it's this one. I really like the expression on here. It looks like he's got kind of a peaked cap on in a way, because it comes right over his eyes there, and he looks like he's you know, on alert and everything like that. So I've taken that idea alongside this owl over here as the inspiration for this evening, and I'm going to be working on that as we progress through tonight. All right, so let's have a look over at the desk and I'll show you what I've done so far. So there's my black winged stilt just there, and I'm going to put on my owl picture. Let's just get rid of a few of these. There we go. Right, so yeah, I've got my owl picture on here that I'm going to be working from this evening, and you'll remember, of course, we've been looking at the reflections in and the ripples and things in water and so forth on here, and this really wet looking fox that's looking directly at us too, and I did these sketches based on that. And this one, which I particularly enjoyed doing, I drew it out in the lesson the other week and then painted it. Don't forget, I have used some of the masking fluid on there as well, and I was a little bit creative with some of the scribbles and things on there as well. So let's just zoom in and have a quick look at that, just as a reminder really. Oh, right in there. So you see I've added extra sort of details and things in here. So I was kind of thinking about a bit about the way that Rachel Walker adds those extra ideas into her work as well. All right, so let's go back out again. Boink, and out again. There we go. And there's the black winged stilt, which I wanted to show you, just to remind you again of what I did. So if we look at this, I've been working into some of these feathers and so forth, shading them in. After I'd watercolored the biro, I went back in with a rollable pen, and the rollable pen is a little bit darker than the biro, so it kind of makes things pop out a little bit more, which is really effective. So if you remember, I talked about how you can use the biro and then use a watercolor. Well, potentially you could use a watercolor on a pencil drawing, like an outline, and then go back in with the pen on the top as well. So there's lots of different approaches to it, and I emphasize the shape of the body by working into the background here as well. So I'll just come in a bit closer again, and you can see here how I've let the paint run a little bit. I've got these streaky marks to express a bit of movement. The other thing, of course, that I've done is I've put in some pink bits, and I've also painted in some of these feathers around here, and you can see the marks I've used a little bit closer. Now, somebody else pointed out that, oh, you haven't done all of the reflection on the bird, which is true. Because we've talked a little bit about emphasizing the area of interest that we want the viewer to look at. So we know there's a reflection down here. We can fill that in with our mind, if you like. But here we're drawn to the head and the rest of the body on our black winged stilt. Okay, so that's that one, and here's what I've started to draw out with my now this is a great long-eared owl, I think it was called. I did see the name of it, but getting the words right isn't always possible. But what I've done is what I'm trying to do here is make a little bit like Rachel Walker, trying to make the eyes almost like really detailed, if you like. And then I've started to add in some extra details of my own to draw attention to the tiny little areas inside of that. I'm going to do a little bit more work on adding these patterns and coming down here a little bit around his chest or his breast area. And I've only shaded it. I haven't shaded it particularly heavy at this point because I'm going to put some watercolor on and then work back into it, I think. So that's what we're going to do at the moment. All right, so now a little bit late this week, but I have, if you find that you've finished everything and you want to try more of a portrait of an animal, I have put some on the drive for you. So all you need to do is go to the drive, find this section, and there's a folder with close-up animals in there that has a selection of photographs should you want to go down this route a little bit more. But I know that we started something last week, so finishing that off is also good. Okay, right. So the other thing is I'm going to try and layer some colours, some watercolours, using a bit of glazing on top as well. And the main area of focus I'm trying to do is going to be around here, and perhaps a bit on the head area, and a little bit fading down there as well. Okay, so the way I approach this is I drew it out in pencil first of all, very lightly, and then I started to add the finer detail with my biro pen, this one, which is a bit bent because it got left in the car and it melted.
Okay, so carrying on with the inspiration of our artist that we chose to look at this term, or the end of this term anyway, and as you can see, I'm just having a closer look at it there, and I was showing some students that had just arrived some of the details. So one of the nice things about Rachel Walker is she adds a lot of her own ideas into the artwork that she's making. Ideas such as, you know, the patterns and the extra details, but these details also complement the animal, or sorry, the bird most of the time that Rachel does in her work. And that kind of helps to add something a little bit different, but also something that is in line with what the subject is all about. So you can see me doing all of those sorts of things on here. In fact, I've already started doing it during this session. So I've changed the top part of his head to those zigzags you can see above, and I've looked really closely at the bird itself, and I saw that around this area of the eye there's these little feathery shapes, and then I've literally kind of brought out some of those details by shading them in as well, so we end up with this very decorative effect on how our lovely great long-eared owl just here. So some of the lines I'm doing quite in an ordinary way, sort of with hatching to show the feathery texture, but then other bits I'm adding in some patterns and ideas. So it's literally a case of taking inspiration from the artist and applying it to my own drawing here. But on the other side of things, I don't have any specific plan or idea about how I'm doing this, and it's more about observation and working with the subject as I'm going along through this process. And obviously a lot of this comes from a lot of drawing and things over the years myself, so I'm able to do this and select the right size of things. But basic idea is that you can have smaller details around the eyes, which incidentally I've painted in a quite ordinary way, or a realistic way, and then other parts of the design have been we've added in some newer ideas as well. So it's kind of bringing everything together and making everything work together within the design as well. Now the other thing she does, which we'll look at in a little bit, is how the artist will not deliberately not put details into the picture as well. I'm not quite sure what I was doing here, but I was just looking at a map of where a location is whilst we were having this discussion during the lesson. So on here you can see I've not really gone for all the patterns. I've used more of a cross-hatching technique to create this soft fluffy area and the patterning in the breast area of the bird. And now we're starting to gradually apply colour. And it's really nice if you can, you know, take your time with doing this bit. And it's really enjoyable as well, or at least it is for me, because I've already drawn out everything. So I can start applying ideas with the paint as opposed to just colouring it in. I'm also applying ideas to the way that I add the colours onto here as well. So, you know, can I make the colours, for example, can I add some soft greys into the feathers around the beak? How do I create this like almost metallic look on his beak as well? And then gradually building up those layers of colour, we can create more depth in there. In other words, you know, make some feathers or some parts of the face stand out, or the bird's head stand out better than others. And I do find myself wanting to put more warmth into my colours here, because I've observed there's a bit of yellow, it's yellow ochre sort of colour in there, and some warmer browns as well. So I gradually start to build those in, and I'm not trying to be too careful about being exactly the same as the photograph. It's more about creating something that I'm happy with. So you can see in the ears as well, it's very dark up there on the outside of the ears, so I've shaded in these almost geometrical patterns into the ears, drawn those in, and I've started to add colour onto them as well. But using all this colour helps to bring out some of those patterns and also create the texture within the bird as well. So just in the front where the eyes is, in the middle there, I've used a wet on wet technique. So I put some water down and then started to apply some of the greys that I've been using. And as you can see now, what I wanted to do is one of the things that our artist uses is glazes. So I've gone around some different areas of my picture here with some different colours without layering or overworking them too much, letting them dry, and then you'll see that I add other layers over, like this pink just here, which creates this glazed effect. So basically those colours, they mix without bleeding into each other to create our bird design. And a little bit of splattering in there. Now after this lesson, what I do actually do is work back into it with a rollable pen too, which you can see on the thumbnail of this video. And I'm still going for these like muted colours as well, because I quite like the effect of those, that it softens the whole thing down, and heavier colours towards where the eyes and the beak is. But I've also used some of these little brush strokes to suggest, but not put in too much of the detail of the feathers. So in other words, it's fainter on the outside and leads you into the middle. There we are. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. We're back on January the 14th, as I mentioned before, in the evenings. If you want to sign up, please visit my website, which is www.jamie-poole.com, where you can find all the lessons I do, but also a way of joining us and taking part in these lessons. Have a fantastic Christmas, and I'll see you in 2026.